Ladies and gentlemen, it's Eric Previn, the chairman of the Budget Committee. We're here on a Saturday afternoon at 5 p.m. in a special meeting. Richard Niederberg, Keith Schwellenberg, Eric Previn are in attendance. We are going to begin the meeting a little bit after 5, and if people show up and have comments, we will take them as they come. This could be a very short meeting, so we're ready to move forward. Are there any members of the public? I guess Keith is technically, in addition to being a homeless chair, member of the public. Do you want to make a comment? Or you want to just move forward to the items?
Let's just go to the items.
Okay, fine. So, Mr. Niederberg, do you have any comment just before I get to the items?
Just want to have it locked in so I can do Lutheran.
Right, fair enough. Okay, so that will be your comment, right, which is that you wanted to bring attention to the payment of Luminaria for the down payment, and you would like it on the board's agenda such that we can...
right. You know,
okay, that seems reasonable. And you said that...
Pay Duke before he gets crazy.
Fine. Okay, and now we'll move on to item number 5, which are the budget requests from the Homelessness Committee. There are 2. One is for an outreach day event on October 27th. I think the timing could be adjusted. I just put that in. Is that accurate? 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. or is it TBD?
It's a little TBD, but I think 10 a.m. is good because we want to make sure businesses are open.
That seems like the right time, and it's also not early, not late. Fair enough.
Yeah.
And then it is for $100 for Facebook marketing, $100 for flyers to market the event.
Well, I think I want to
revise that
because what I meant by that is the idea, the concept is we want to do outreach to all the Ventura businesses so that they know what we want to give, basically, like.
You're holding the East Valley Resources booklet, for the record, which is a thing that has been very successful and has a lot of listings.
So the police, so there's a lot of people who want to print more of these, and I am actively working with an organization that supports the police department to get them to pay for the ones that go to the cops, and then we would add their little icon, there, and and in addition, I've reached out to CD2, same thing, so that other neighborhood councils can get it. It just gets a little. I've been trying to figure out how we can coordinate a couple neighborhood councils to buy, because if you buy in bulk, you get more bang for your buck, basically. But the challenge is, like, it gets complicated with the way that this works, the budget process. You can't pay that the printing company, like, you can't have multiple payers. One person pays for the invoice, and all parties are going to want an invoice to prove that they spent stakeholder money for the flyer.
Why can't the printing company deal with that?
I called and I asked, and they said that there's just a single. They just do a single payment for, because alternatively, everyone could just go and get there and pay more, basically. But I was trying to save money because we can pay basically,
Well, as long as there's one invoice with multiple payers, it should be okay.
No, but you can't have multiple payers. That's what they've told me.
They can't. I thought you said they couldn't have multiple invoices. You can't just have one invoice and everybody chips in?
No. I explained what I'd like to do with that business, and they said that they couldn't do that.
What print shop is this?
U Printing in Van Nuys.
Okay.
And they're a good business, and they're very cheap. Anyway, so... But my view is this. My view is this, that I think in that case, I'm trying to coordinate different groups to get to just, my new plan is, because I don't want to wait forever for the bureaucracy, right? So if CD2 is not going to do it, and...
well, hold on. Who's been approached about doing it? Have we approached somebody?
Jessica
CD2?
Fugate, and she brought it to the chief of staff.
Okay.
There was no movement after 2 weeks. I followed up. So I.
What about PAB? There was that other group, right? Is that who you meant?
Yeah. So
did they say they would
the PALS group? That
PALS. Sorry.
Same thing. I had a great conversation with someone. They said, "Hey, this is the person to email." I emailed them. Haven't heard anything. And that would be for printing. I basically put it to them like this. I had this whole theory of, like, all right, we printed the first batch, and we got it out into the community. What if the next neighborhood council buys the next big batch?
Exactly.
And then
Sounds
it just
great.
goes from one to the other. But obviously that takes a lot of time, and I don't want to stop doing outreach events.
Right. Well, what's the snafu with that model? catching up with itself. I mean, in other words, with putting through. I mean, I can't imagine
I
if we
think
speak to the printer and it's clear what we're doing. We're helping
that's
people.
not why I'm here asking for $350 to print 5,000, because we don't need 5,000. I think our community, I want to print like another 1,000 basically of these for businesses. This is the idea is this: take 4 of these flyers.
Yeah.
I have my volunteers ready to go.
Gotcha.
I have Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts of America, kids that want to go. They're going to walk up and down the boulevard. They're going to go to the businesses and say, hey, this is the resources that are available in our community. If you see anyone that you think is in need of help, here's something that you can give them. And also keep one for yourself, because there's, just so you know what is available. And I think that's a good community service. And because a lot of these businesses, they do interact with people, when they open their store, they're sleeping inside their foyer and stuff. So yeah, on top of that,
cool.
And the thing I think people don't realize is that this is not just serving the people experiencing homelessness. This serves anybody who wants to do volunteer service. Because if you look at it, it's in one way you're like, oh, this is all stuff that is for people that are hungry. But it's also, if you want to volunteer, that's Monday through Sunday where you can go volunteer to help those in need, right?
Right, and we've seen
from that perspective.
But just if I may chime in, we've seen that people, this is appealing to them. They asked for the galleys so they could print one out or do something themselves. Yeah. So I think that's great. But that is that. So this says marketing for this event, and then it says flyers to market the event. Instead of flyers to market the event, do you mean second load of East Valley Resources brochures?
Yes.
Because that's a different thing, and I think that's supportable, certainly. Now, how much money is it going to cost? $100? That's what you'll spend, because you can get a lot for $100.
Yeah,
I realize it comes down substantially if we get a much larger order, but we're not in a position because all these other payors are dragging their feet, is what I'm hearing?
I think my new approach will be that everyone for themselves kind of, so as we need these, we'll print more, and if the police want it, they should just go get it, and we'll provide the file for them to do it.
Right.
And we'll even, Mary, who built this thing, we got a lot of criticism for funding someone designing that, but
in fact, on that point, before you move past that, somebody asked for me to ask you for her invoice. If she generated an invoice.
She provided that invoice to the treasurer, and it was
so if
also
you could just
submitted.
Because I'm having a hard time accessing the little cubby of the treasurer. So if you wouldn't mind sending that along, that'd be great. Then I can pass it along. Yep. Okay, but we'll do $100 of these things, and it's you printing. That seems reasonable. And my only comment about their reluctance to be more cooperative with different payors would be 2 things. One is I can speak to them and just say, really, why in the world? And sometimes people just agree, but other times. You have to do a competitive bid, which is when we take that great galley and we just bring it to a couple different. I mean, we maybe get, again, if it's a great deal, why would we want to go find out that it's more expensive next door? But if they don't want to be cooperative, because this is a kind of this is a great feeling, this thing. It's not about, there's some material difference between giving everybody the same reasonable price. And we don't want in my opinion, a deep discount. As if there's some other thing going on. We want a good price that's in the marketplace and fair. So I think they're doing a great job because it looks good.
And we did receive I think we got like a 20% discount because Mary, who designed this, she's constantly getting stuff printed in her work. Well, so she got us a discount.
Fair enough.
Which we'd be able to most likely get again.
Any idea how much Arnold would charge for that?
I will... send it to him and I'll find out. I'll do the due diligence of comparing it. I will compare.
Well, this event is coming up on October 27th. So, we can do 2 things. We can spend $100 to get some more right out of the machine where they're printing them.
Yep.
And then we can agree to investigate going forward, because there's not, if there isn't, I mentioned to you that there's a November 3rd event also. I've been trying to agitate about that because I think it's, it's the other side of the town where Jessica and the Chamber of Commerce and all these other groups are going to be marching around. I think it would be good to be out there together in a way. And I've been saying that, and that's a great way to outreach to the people, even about what's coming up. So we can do all these things. And regarding whether or not we have to have an RFP about printing, we'll table that. Because if it seems necessary, if we're not getting traction, we can move forward. And if we're getting a fine deal and they're willing to cooperate and take money from someone else to give us the same to the Studio City deal, that would be the best. And I mean, maybe they will, because they'll realize, we don't normally do that, but for this kind of a thing, we will. Okay, so I would say that and then water and bagels for the volunteers. I assume that's for the day of.
Yeah, we're
up
going
and
to
down.
meet at Panera Bread, and I'm going to.
Does that seem like the right sum? How many people are you anticipating?
I imagine it'll probably be about 20 people. So 20. I mean, ideally, it's as many as stakeholders who want to come out, but I would imagine people actually show up 20 to 30.
Fair enough. Well, that seems like a reasonable request. Any comments, Mr.?
You're saying to me that it shouldn't cost $400 for 20 people.
Right. But it could be up to 100.
And just to give an example, when we were given $1,100 last time, we ended up spending less than that. We spent, I think, $900 or something.
But staying on this point, I think I'm fine approving this. How about up to $100 on the food and bagels?
Yeah.
And then my recommendation, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I always get swamped by the confusion. Should he pay for this and be reimbursed, since we all agree that that's what he's going to do since he's a board member, or should you provide your credit card so that he can purchase the food?
I'm trying not to have the credit card get off my body.
I don't mean off your body, but he says, okay, we're over at Panera. Call him in, Richard.
Panera Bread over here.
Or I don't know. I'm making that up,
here.
but wherever you're going to. Is that where you're meeting?
Yeah.
Okay, so, I mean, do you want to do that, or do you want to do, you'll just get what you get and you reimburse?
Going by Panera Bread.
Right.
You want to just basically deal directly. That way the credit card never leaves my hand as long as it's approved.
Yeah, we can
I
coordinate.
mean, it's an inconvenience to you, but that's fine. Okay, so, but I just what I want to do is avoid where somebody says, like they've been saying to us, that wasn't approved first.
I don't want to
It's not fun. Why should you spend your money?
Yeah.
Right. If Richard's willing to commit to this is an event, we're going to do it. You got the date? You're planning to be up and running on that date?
What date it is.
It's October 27th. It's a good day. Later that day, there's an event at Beaman Park, for the record, and we should keep that in mind as well. Okay, so then I'm in agreement with all of this to bring to the board. The board will then approve it, or they can disagree and argue about it. We can do what we want, but that seems reasonable to me. Should we move on to B?
Yes.
Okay. Item B is the same price. It's a $300 outreach charge for a Thanksgiving bag drive for those in need.
Do you need to vote on that last one?
I thought we did unanimously agree to bring it to the board.
agree?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, he agrees. Good
My
point.
calendar in front of me to see what's happening.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that, because we do want to vote. So we voted affirmatively. Okay. So the second one is the Thanksgiving bag drive for those in need. So it's Saturday, November 11th, between 10 and 1, and it's going to be at the St. Matthew's Church in North Hollywood. And then it says for the 11:10 event. Did I get that backwards? That may be confusing. Is there an event before the November 11th?
Oh, maybe that's
that may be a typo. Okay, so I'm going to straighten that out.
Oh, no. It's November. It's I think it is the 10th.
Let's double check the date so we get the date right. And it's again some Facebook marketing of $100. Again,
and this is a flyer for the
orange.
event. I doubt we'll spend $100 on the flyers. This is like a one pager that we're going to print and put in Starbucks. So
okay.
People.
So should we make it 50 instead, or do you want to leave it at 100?
I'd rather leave it at.
Okay.
You can make it 50.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Let's make it 50. And then water and bagels will be the same because it'll be approximately the same size crew. You anticipate you'll have a little food out as people drop off their stuff.
Yeah, and I think it probably won't get to that number, but I'd rather play it on the safe end and have.
Okay, and now we can.
For a meeting or an event.
This is for an event. So this is a LA Family Housing. These are people that are living in supportive housing, and they do a Thanksgiving drive. And the whole idea is that we got an invitation to bring 30 stakeholders to view one of these supportive housing facilities. And so we thought it would be nice, since the LA Family Housing put it out there that they're looking for Thanksgiving supplies for all these people that are living there. Most people living there all of the people actually at supportive housing places are formerly chronically homeless people. So you can imagine they don't have too much money going on in their local economy there. And so the idea is they're doing a food drive throughout different communities, and churches different NCs are doing little events so people of Studio City can give food, and we thought it'd be nice that we do the food drive, and then on the 15th we're going to be going to do that tour, and we'll bring the food with us as a.
So a couple things. One, there's a tour. So
yeah,
when is that happening?
That's separate from the food drive.
Okay.
That's on the 15th, November 15th, and we're gonna. We just thought it would be nice to come bearing kind of gifts, essentially. This is from the people of the state.
When is Thanksgiving? The next week or something? The 23rd or there's something like that? 26th?
I'm not sure.
Typically, it's the 26th. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. So I have a couple comments. Do you have anything, Richard?
No, just hoping that other neighborhood councils would also chip in for something.
And I think they are the pastor that's hosting us. She is the chair of the Committee on Homelessness of North Hollywood.
Okay.
So I assume they will be also doing this drive.
Okay.
In addition.
So I have So I have a couple comments. One is Thanksgiving time.
It is the 10th, by the way, not the 11th.
Okay, so it'd be November 10th. Thank you. I'll make the provision. And do you want to? I think we should disclose that it's for LA Family Housing. If they're gonna be the recipients.
Yes. Yes.
And I have to ask because. I like the idea of a tour and of trying to humanize what's happening. Mm-hmm. And I've been curious, where is LA Family Housing? Mm-hmm. And where is it, actually?
So there's a few different places. The one I got to go on a tour with Nazarian and a couple other. I think they invited a couple committee on homelessness people from NCs in the Valley. So there were people from North Hills, there were people from Valley Village, cool. And we did a tour, and it's basically it's in North Hollywood at I think it's like 7959 Simpson Avenue or whatever. It's I'll come up with the cross streets.
That's okay, but is it like out by Victory, or is it down by Lankershim,
It's north Hollywood, so almost
almost Sun Valley.
Yeah,
almost. Okay, so it's out there. Okay, fair enough.
It's a beautiful building. They really did an excellent job with it. It's frankly the nicest building for 20 blocks.
Wow. And it's a brand new permanent supportive housing, LA Family Housing facility.
There's still like construction fencing around it.
Okay.
But it's in operation and it's already full.
Right.
Which says a lot.
Well, are people excited about having it be open? There's not like a big privacy issue, right? Because I think it's really great to show people.
Yeah, no.
And say, hey, look, this doesn't seem that bad.
Yeah, exactly.
If it doesn't seem that bad.
They are doing tours.
Good.
I think they're spacing it out so it's not like constantly happening. But and they just asked, I had my phone and I said, can I take pictures? And they said, you can take pictures of the building, just not of people, people's faces, obviously.
Sure.
And
unless they want to be photographed. I mean,
right? Yeah. So at that facility, this particular building. This isn't always the case, but this particular set of buildings, there was 3. It was a complex, and one building was permanent supportive housing. Right. So that's housing for individuals that were experiencing homelessness for over a year, and are what's considered like chronically homeless. Right. And then there was also a family services center that has some housing for families and a playground and counselors and and that center is more about like trying to rapidly get them back in a normal apartment or in a they also sublease motels and stuff like that. And then there was a bridge housing which had a special wing for veterans and then a separate men and women's section, and that's more like less privacy. Like you don't have your own apartment, with
it was like single occupancy, or what is it?
We didn't we didn't go into it in particular room. We just walked through the main area and saw the community center of that section, and it just seemed like an old folks home. Most of the people in there actually were senior citizens. They were watching a movie together, and it had that kind of feel.
Right.
And then the permanent supportive housing, we did get to go inside someone's unit, and it was beautiful. Like this guy was formerly was a professional photographer at some point in his life, so he had his pictures on the wall, and he kept his place very clean, and it was a very nice, small but nice, nice apartment. So it was super interesting, and I think it would definitely quell people's fear if they got.
Yeah, I mean, I think people are invited to go out there and check it out in the afternoon. Or something that would be great.
So
how much space is dedicated to any kind of support?
So every single one of the buildings that we walked into had, immediately as you came in, there was a security person, and you could see all the cameras that they had. They had a whole view of the entire building, basically. And then next to that, adjacent to that, were facilities for in the family center, for instance. It's a whole room, and there's people who are like caseworkers. Now we were there at nighttime, so a lot of them weren't there, but they do a lot of casework. And since HHH was passed, it's really some of the interesting numbers I learned was since HHH passed, they went from, in the last year, they housed 6 times as many people than in the previous 6 years. Okay, so, I'm sorry, yeah, they in the last year they housed more people than in the previous 6 years. That's what it was, which I think is that's a huge increase. And the reason why is because they went from the social workers, their load of cases it used to be like 130 people to 170 people, which is basically at that point it's like whack-a-mole, put out a fire here and put out a fire there, and now it's down to like 25. So your average social worker has time during the week to spend hours on a person or family, to figure it out. And
is there any effort to turn over the units?
Yeah, so there is a backlog for people wanting to get in. There's definitely not enough housing. And so what these caseworkers often do is they exhaust all other options before someone gets housed in a place like this. So first they see, all right, do you have any family that would take you in, right? And they even do the work of trying to coordinate a deal, almost like mediation. Well, they'll say, all right, hey, will you take in your cousin's family, let them sleep in your garage or in the living room, and we, HHAs, will cover your utility bills because you're going to pay for more water, more power because of this. And they have the ability to do that, and it saves the taxpayer a bundle, because now that we're just covering some utilities, we're keeping a family housed.
If the family or the person was eligible for Section 8, would they put them try to put them in Section 8?
Yes, yeah, exactly. These caseworkers, they're like any other kind of housing social worker. They're looking at all options. They would bring you in and they would say, okay, you're a veteran, I can get VA money, to find you a place. You're a family, there's different, federal funds available for that. You're and so after all those things are exhausted, then if, let's say you're a 55-year-old or 54-year-old single male, that's the hardest person to house, basically. There's a lot more funding for if you're a young person, if you have kids, if you're a veteran, if you're a woman. There's lots more resources available. But it should be said that the perception, I think, in most stakeholders is that there are lots of services available and people are just refusing it, and that is 100% untrue. No. And everyone I met with, every church I've met with, every single city official, you can ask them. I ask people, stakeholders, to do this. If they believe that, I say, call any one of these places and ask them, okay, I have somebody who is ready to be housed. Where do I take them tonight? And they will say, we have nothing. Because there is literally nothing.
So that's the problem.
Coupons to go to the Cecil Hotel downtown.
Yeah. It's complicated because even that, so for instance, HHH money is available to do that. Like, all right, let's just get them into a motel tonight, right? Well, this guy doesn't have an ID. If you own a motel, are you going to let someone stay in your motel if they have no ID?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yeah, also
you know.
HHH money is just for the bricks and mortar stuff, for
Right.
building houses. So
No,
but you may be thinking of H money.
Well,
or
yeah.
H is the
Right,
other
is
one.
the county
But
measure, yeah.
let me just make the point, because I think you're in the area, that there can be a number of caseworkers trying to get the pieces in place to find enough money to get a house for a person to stay in.
Yeah.
But that does not address the problem of there are no houses for people to stay in, and they
Yeah.
are not affordable. So whereas I absolutely, and the place that you're talking about is one of the few places where they actually completed a project and there's great residences and there are people residing there. I assume it's virtually full.
It's full.
Yeah. So that's a good story. And so, if we can show that the same, because then we roll into all the same problems which we hear about all the time, which is the expense to build these things is through the roof.
Yeah,
and
at the same time, it seems like there's
and
no-
Section 8, you brought up Section 8, sir, but Section 8 has got a 25,000 person waiting
I
list.
totally
So,
believe it.
you can get up in the
No.
morning and wake up and dream about the fact that someone's going to call you and say it's time. Whereas it's true that there is Section 8 housing in the world, and actors in New York live in it sometimes, and it's great, and they can survive, but it's not working well now. So at the moment, we're talking about a tour out to see the facility, which sounds great, and because I think people would like to do something rather than just constantly bellyache with one another, and it's a great
funny
idea.
was that the city wouldn't just, or the county wouldn't just rent like that nursing home next to Marshall's.
Well, they are. That's
Yeah.
the thing.
It's
Is
already approved.
They're trying.
It's already up to code and everything.
I will say that they are trying to do all these things. They are, as you know, if it's not a poor community, basically they face a huge amount of opposition. Like
Right.
you saw at our own board meeting, the amount of people with means and lawyers, right, come out of the woodwork and it's totally understandable because their perception of the homeless is a negative one, and so why in your right mind would you want?
They would say that that's not fair. That they, I can hear some of our stakeholders saying, "No, I would love to help people, and I like helping people too. But some of these people are scaring me and my children and my animals and are robbing my house."
And
so then you say, well, okay, that I can understand that, because of course, but we still have to find a way to connect to these characters in our community and try to make some sorting about that.
Well, I would say, what I learned from this, going to this supportive housing is you have to understand that the biggest thing I tell stakeholders who say that, I say, for one thing, there are already people experiencing homelessness in our community. They're already here. And right now we know nothing about them. Right now they say at an address we don't know, we can't trace them back to. So if they were a criminal, the police they got nothing, They have the whatever outreach they're doing. And then they're also using basically the gutter as a bathroom, and they're using people's businesses' sprinklers as a shower, and it's just it's a health crisis waiting to happen. And the third thing, which is what a lot of stakeholders really want, is the ability for police to say, hey, you can't sleep here, you need to go to housing. And every federal court has ruled that you cannot move somebody if you can't offer them somewhere to go to sleep that night, because you blood out of a stone. And so if we do if every community steps up and does something and there are beds available, then the police will have that ability to say, wait, the law will be on their side, and that they'll be able to say, all right, society has built you a bed for you to go and sleep here tonight. And then to build on that, if we did, let's just say, have supportive housing, in our community, all those people that are there, there's cameras, there's security people there 24 hours a day. There's a record of when they come in and out of the building. They have an address tied to their name. If they were actually going into the community and, let's say, stealing, whatever the nightmare scenario is, they are now they are similar to us in that you can be traced back to your residence and arrested and persecuted. Whereas right now, when they're living on the river in their tent, none of that exists. And also, you're going to the bathroom in your toilet, your own toilet, and all the health things. And on top of that, like another thing people don't realize is that if someone's on the street, okay, it's much harder to get your life back together and get clean again, and meet with doctors and do all the things, take your medication. That's very hard to do when you're just trying to stay alive and just trying to stay dry and just trying to get by. If you have the ability to shut the door, lock the door, and not be preyed on by other people, and victimized, then they can start that process of like, okay, I have this now. And that was the example. The guy that we met and went into his place, he was a former drug addict and had suffered from severe depression and anxiety, and was and now I was talking with them, and I don't know if he still used drugs or not, but looking at him, he was a very cleaned up, very good posture, and it seemed like he was doing
And by the
well.
way, I mean, I'm just going to say it, and let's assume that he, like so many of us, does fall off the wagon or has a drink or something else. I mean, to me, that person is not suddenly like, if they are up to no good, let's say, or criminals even in some way because they broke the law, what then? I mean, what are we supposed to do? Because, and I'm not saying in a harsh way.
No,
I'm saying
that's a good point.
It's not a surprise that addicts fall off the wagon. They do all the time. And if you've ever had one in your family, if you know of anyone, it's frustrating and it's horrible. And that's what being an addict means. It's not a choice. It's not fun. So, but you still have to address the members of our community who are furious beyond belief, angry beyond belief that people are poking around their cars and looking in their windows at night, which is terrifying for them. And I understand that. I wouldn't, I've had that a little bit. I live on the hill, so it's a little different, but every now and again I get robbed some way, over the years. I've been there for 25 years. But, it's creepy because then someone was there and, someone was in your place. So I get that.
I've been robbed as well.
And so we have to protect, obviously, I think everybody wants to do that, and everybody wants to be a little bit compassionate. The question is how. So this is a Thanksgiving drive, but there's a tour that's not mentioned. Now, should we mention that? I mean, I don't think we have to mention it like it's a big quid pro quo, but I do think that it's nice to include the neighborhood council, that if we're going to be, like that in addition to funding this thing, we'll be, scheduling tours over the next few weeks so that people can go. And, you can limit it as much as you have to in terms of the volume. But don't you think that's a good thing to make?
I'm just concerned with the people that come out of the woodwork every year to serve Thanksgiving dinner at Tony Alamo's or the Midnight Mission or whatever, basically.
Yeah. It's a busy night on this. You're right.
And they show up once a year and they've done their thing. What happened the rest of the year?
Yeah, no, and this again, like this is for us as a council and for us as a committee on homelessness. I think we're taking advantage of the fact that yes, in the Christmas and Thanksgiving season when people are feeling more like giving back to community, I think we should take advantage of that and let them know that we exist. That there is a committee on homelessness, that if you are interested in doing volunteer events, like we're going to have, at that we'll have this and we'll have our, sign up sheet and, so people will hear, oh, there's a Studio City Neighborhood Council. Oh, there's a committee on homelessness or, I think
well, you could make that argument that it's a good time to be out there in the marketplace, so to speak. But you could also make the argument that it's also cluttered because there's going to be about 15,000 turkey drives. My carpenter. I mean, I've been involved in several, including Wheels on Wheels. Out of that senior place out in on Van Nuys.
But I think it's still good to do, and I think that it'll be.
Can I make one comment?
Yeah.
And you can take it as you like. But what would be really great. And I feel like your committee is doing a great job of being cohesive and being a group of people. What would be really great would be to evolve, and I don't know that it could happen this time, to the place where we're going to go there and make a big dinner, and we're going to have a kind of a Thanksgiving with these people. We're going to cover the costs. It's going to be, but we're going to be there, and it's going to humanize both us and them. And, the neighborhood council is welcome, and, it's like a little, oh, look, this is kind of interesting. I think that would be great.
That's
because
an interesting idea.
Yeah, it's an interesting idea. Maybe because, I will say, I looked at the brochure, which I don't see, the flyer, which was, I guess, this one was done internally, no fee on the...
No fee.
Good, great, I appreciate that. And it's a nice, it looks great. So, I mean, that just goes to show you volunteers are terrific. But... the one I looked at it briefly, and it looked like a kind of what you'd expect the ingredients for a meal to bring to one of the units, and so they can make a turkey dinner. But there was a cash component or a gift card, and I don't know what the way to do that, what the way to deal with that is. I mean, because we're going to be outreaching to the world, saying send in stuff to them,
Well,
to them.
so what
So I don't know how many turkeys they need, and I don't know how many gift cards they need.
So what Mary did was she built a Google Excel, a live document. Mary Kenny, she's on our committee, and she does a lot of nonprofit work. So she's very experienced in this type of organizational events. Okay, so and so we kind of deputized her to run this food drive thing, and she found the venue and. She created this.
What is the venue, by the way?
So it's at the Lutheran Church in North Hollywood, St. Matthew's, and they when we do the outreach for this, there'll be the link to this Google Doc, and so you'll say this is what I'm bringing, so that people don't bring too much of one thing or the other. So people can tally off I can bring this and this. So just so people know you don't have to bring everything that on the list. If you can only afford to I have a great deal on whatever yams or whatever that on the list, and they can say I'll bring 20 yams. That's good, and as long as they're inputting that data on there, then
I thought it was that the idea is that if you want to participate, you could buy a bag and put one of because do you have the thing?
That's the suggested thing to do.
It seemed like each one was a kind of a.
That's the suggested thing, but by putting this Excel document out in the public, people can.
I see. It's like an interactive.
It'll tell.
Okay, I got it.
Can I add a couple things?
Yeah.
I'm involved with the Optimist Club, and we used to have
the what club? The Optimist Club?
Optimist Club. I'm the president of Studio City's Optimist Club. And one of the things we used to do is every year we would provide whole turkey dinners at one of the youth homes. This way isn't Van Nuys, but doesn't make it where it's at. And after a while, they said, "Don't get extra because we're not allowed to keep things around because they're afraid of liability purposes."
Yeah.
So to me, the best part of Thanksgiving is the leftovers left over, and they're going to deprive these people from having the best part of the whole Thanksgiving.
Right.
Okay. The other issue is this. It seems to me that the supportive housing is a lot of money per unit. It's 3 times more than regular housing. It's not supportive housing. But I also note that, for example, when they had those protests downtown on the City Hall grass, there's a whole community there that was for months and months and months. And they seemed like they were happy and self-governing. After the earthquake, there was a huge tent community, next to the freeway, North Hollywood Park. It also seemed to be very nice, self-governing.
What's your point, Mr. Niederberg? I'm just trying to bring it to a... What do you mean?
Sorry, and also downtown, you had the kiosks, the little...
Right.
It seems to me that some people would be more comfortable being in that kind of arrangement than they are with the brick walls.
Yeah. I mean,
it's certainly a lot cheaper.
The facility that I toured... I highly doubt, and all the people that I've met on the street and the people that I've been working with, they would kill to be living in this place. It's a really nice, it's a new building, and I do think that the expenses, often, some of the big, this is going on in, there was, NPR did a whole special this week, I don't know if you heard, and about, I think in Fullerton, about supportive housing, and because of people fighting it, it's cost in millions more, because it delayed
slows
stuff
things down
and everything. Yeah.
That doesn't surprise me,
I
yeah.
think that all the data that I've been shown is that it saves us money in the long run, because it's hard to conceptualize this, but if you think about someone living on the street is going to have eventually a medical problem.
Right.
And they're going to be responded to by EMTs, our firefighters, our most expensive civil servants, who are going to take them to the ER doctors, who are our most expensive ER doctors, and that bill is going to be sent to you.
That's
They don't have any money. So, but if you, all of something that is most likely diabetes, or, all of something that if they were living in the permanent supportive housing and they're getting checked up by a social worker, and the social worker is scheduling a doctor's appointment and doing this work, yes, it's more expensive than an average apartment,
Right.
but it's way cheaper than
That's right.
in the long run, because cops, firefighters, they make a lot of.
I have something else. Okay,
Yeah.
after studying this thing recently, the cost per unit of the brand new condo/dorms at USC are a tiny fraction of the per unit cost of the supportive housing. If USC can do it from scratch, for a lot less money, why can't you have that style?
Well,
That's a good
reasonable question.
a reasonable question, and that's something I can look into.
Okay, and I can also share that if you have a lot of resources like USC does, you can move in the marketplace to get things done at an effective rate, just like in any other business. And one of the things that's missing from our solutions, because we don't have any, unfortunately, because as I think it was Krikorian who said at his own town meeting on this subject, he said, if it's $400,000-$500,000 a unit, because it's so competitive in LA, we have 37,000 people on the street, and that's a little conservative. So
Yes.
we can't build that many. Okay, so it's not that many, but even the number of units becomes it's an impossibility. So we have to be doing some of these things, but we also have to be imagining help because of the dramatic, inequality. And the help probably lives in the $162 billion that guys like Jeff Bezos have amassed for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And whereas the world is better maybe because we can get stuff so quick, and
So
that's where we need to be
and I
emphasizing you need help, because they can buy a whole piece of everything and get an architect, like a genius architect who knows how to build a community where people of different values and wealths and sizes can live. But we're screwed otherwise.
Well, I have seen in other, so the numbers that I've seen is that LA has not in the past gave a significant amount of funding to house people, and that's because we don't have severe winters like other cities do. So New York City spends $2 billion every year housing about 77,000 folks.
In virtually substandard public
in all
housing.
sorts of different.
Yeah, but it has a terrible rep. My cousin works in it.
Summer brown.
The landlords complain that they're not getting enough, even
Right.
though it is. The government is paying a huge amount,
Right.
but what they're getting is really scary housing with rats and...
So that being said, though, they put up the money that we never have, and so HHH&H put up not $2 billion, but a significant amount of money over 10 years. It's not New York spends $2 billion a year doing that, right? Whereas we're spending over the next 10 years,
1 point something.
yeah, 1 point whatever, and so it's definitely I think going to help, and I think that if people understand that we have about 12,000 chronically homeless people. So when they hear the numbers of countywide that there's 58,000, people experiencing homelessness, most of those people, the problem will be solved not by expensive supportive housing. They will be solved by the other scenarios I talked about. Covering the utilities, stay with your cousin, go home back to your parents.
Right.
Then the caseworkers working with them, go stay at this motel for a week so you can save up your first and last. Because again, since we were able to hire thousands of more outreach folk, they have been able to. They're not just saying they're not just picking up the phone. Yeah, we don't have any housing. You're screwed. They're working with them and saying, okay, look, I can't get you into a place that's built by the government, right?
Well, that would be, yeah, but let's hold on. That would be a great question, because I think you're providing one answer that, and then there's other people who provide a different answer, which is it possible to get housing now? If you call, will they say
there is no housing? But
okay,
they're like, again.
But they're trying.
They're trying. They're not just hanging up on people.
But again, trying, and that means I can give one snapshot, which we'll see, but we can track, which is a guy because the H money, which has been arranged. This is not the bricks and mortar side. This is the county's services. So this is where you can really send people out onto the streets. It goes into LASA, goes into the counting thing. The whatever that's called, the
homeless count.
Yeah, but there's not the homeless count. I'm thinking of the one that the electronic filing system of homeless.
The CES.
CES, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Not my favorite thing, but it's they're doing that. They're paying, and what they found. What I found was, here's a guy who's 60 years old, healthy, excellent driver, wants to get a job in that program, and he tried to apply through and a lot of them require experience and stuff, and yet he's a perfect candidate. So, I'm advocating pushing him into the machine a little bit. We'll see what happens. But it's been too long, and it worries me because, you're saying they're staffing up and they're doing and here's a guy who's ready, and so I've tried to test that as being as fair and reasonable, just like tippy-toeing, not, making a big fuss about it, but wiggling the guy in there, and I don't know why that is, but we're going to see.
I will
object one thing,
and I will say, I will say that, our committee is not wearing rosy-colored glasses in any way. And one of the people that came to me, a very professional insurance man, Andrew Silver, who's a stakeholder of Studio City. Mm-hmm. He came on my board, and he had a 3-point plan. He's like, I want to be making sure that the services they say they're going to provide, they are providing. And he's been meeting with LASA. He's been meeting with, different organizations and finding out who's doing what for our committee, so that we can exactly as stakeholders say, hey, there's somebody who needs help.
Right.
We can track that and see.
And let's also hold them accountable to make it so that it works. I mean, that's the key thing. So good. And in terms of, so there's two components to this. There's a bag drive and there's a tour possibility. Now, you can help me with the language, or I can try to, we should just figure out what you want it to, because I think it's a good door opener. And, if you're comfortable having that there, that, that we're going to be scheduling some tours of the facility. At LA Family Housing.
I think what I would do is I would, I think it's about 30 people we can invite, and I probably.
What do you mean, for a one-day tour?
For exactly.
Why not break it into smaller groups and do it less frequently, or more frequently? Where you don't even where they just are agreeing to see.
I think
you don't want to bother the same. Where you live.
Well, no. It's not that. It's just that they're doing tours all the time with
others as well.
With others as well. So I assume that, the. I don't know how many slots we'll be able to get.
I would say this if I were a consumer, I would say I'd like to see it before I contribute to it.
Exactly.
Because but on the other hand, and your board. I think a lot of the people are going to be supportive of a turkey drive for, or whatever, for this. So that's fine. But there are going to be some people who are going to ask some questions. So we have to be prepared for that. So I think that we should be. And I think that it's great to see a place, in addition to funding it.
Yeah.
So that's my feeling. I'll do it any way you want.
And I think what I'm probably going to do is offer it. I'm going to have a sign-up sheet probably at the food drive and at the other event, and almost as a sign of respect for the volunteers who are coming out, and offer to them first, and then as there's more slots available, open it up to the larger stakeholders. And
I'm just thinking, so this is November 10th, so this is about 2 weeks before Thanksgiving. So is there some way to make that date into something where you either go there and serve food, I don't know, I'm just thinking to make it the kind of a where you're backdooring in, not to a big Thanksgiving, which I think is everyone's doing Thanksgiving either.
Well, no, that's the idea. Is that the on the 10th, we're getting all these bags, and then whoever those 30 people that are going to go do the tour, they're going to bring the bags with them and give them to the facility as just like a.
Oh, okay. So it's bring a bag to the place.
Yes,
okay,
exactly.
Okay.
So
then should we have some sign-ups? I mean, do we want to do it that way to make it available to people, or do we want? How do we want to?
I think that.
Or do we want to have a raffle for the people who can win a chance if we have too many people? Or
yeah, I think that's what we'll have to do. Is that if we get 150 people that want to go, we'll have to.
Well, they want to give a turkey.
No. If for that, it's as many people that show up to St. Matthew's to drop off the stuff,
Oh, okay.
And with the between we're going to bring it to that LA Family Housing, that individual building. But if they get, for instance, if they get too much, they're just going to bring it to somewhere else, which they also did with these. We gave some to LA Family Housing, and they were very happy, and they spread it to different places. So. So that's.
How are we doing on the inventory of kits? Well, let's move through the agenda.
Yeah, sure.
Then we can talk. Okay. So how would you like to structure B? Because it's not. It was very limited what I wrote. I don't need to write a novel.
I don't think anything needs to change.
Leave it more or less the same. But we have to explain that it's a. That
the
it's
tour's a separate event.
Okay.
And that tour doesn't need any sort of.
Do you want to say something about the tour in your out? Do you have a report from the guy from Homelessness Committee moment where you could say,
well,
and we could just
normally I would.
them?
I don't know if I'm going to have to deputize that to someone else.
One of your
because
people, sure,
I'm
Richard.
going to Milwaukee on Tuesday.
Oh, okay.
So
we're having a nice debate on our agenda.
I know. I'm bummed.
I got the lady
there.
who wrote the proposition to come yes on
for the
10th.
10th,
and then I've got the guy for Wednesday.
No, I know. I'm saying.
Yeah. And then I've got the guy. Yeah, for
the
for the
Proposition 10.
Oh, Prop 10, right.
Yeah,
so the woman who wrote it and a guy who hates
That's
it.
excellent.
And they're going to come, and I'm going to square them off for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And then the board can decide what they think. It's great, though.
I have after we get through this, I have a thing I want to ask you about.
Sure, but let's get through this as you agree. So it sounds like you're saying just add LA Family Housing, and we should add the location, the address, so people know where it is on our agenda, right? Since it's a drop-off point. And for the outreach event, do you want any information there about where to meet? It doesn't say anything, but
we're going to meet at I'll say
because this is going to go on the board agenda, so that's good if people see it. They can, although it hasn't yet been approved, I don't know how we do that, but I think we could I like to put the information out there, and if it's not approved, we'll tell people. It's going to get approved, right? Okay.
Panera Bread, in the Vaughn's.
Panera in Studio City. Okay. Okay, and then so do we have? Do you want to make a motion to approve this? This is actually it's 250 if we reduce the number of flyers, since it's an isolated event and we're not going to have that many flyers. So it's $250 not to exceed for the Thanksgiving bag drive for the LA Family Housing, in conjunction with, or we'll have to get the language right. Is it in conjunction with? To benefit
LA Family Housing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, and then
Panera Bread certainly is not going to be costing that much per person.
Yeah, I don't imagine they would.
you want to add the up to? Fine, up to.
I think on the day we'll just, if you can meet me there a little bit, it'll be like we'll get there a little early. We'll get there at like 9:30, and we'll buy some water at Vaughn's for the volunteers so they don't pass out, and then we'll go in and we'll buy some donuts and coffee, and then we'll meet in that back patio area.
Great. Okay. Sounds like a plan. So I will move to bring that to the board and approve it, and you second that?
Yeah.
Fair enough, unanimously. Now let's move on to the last item, which I'm not going to say anything about because there's nothing to say. The treasurer's report, he didn't make it, but here it is. And I did note, because I put the budget in there just because I thought that was a good thing to do. We did get a letter from Mr. Adams, which you may or may not have seen.
Yes, I read that. Yeah.
Challenging, and the response I thought was handled well. A, Patrick notified everybody. B, we are going to adjust our bylaws to make this committee a formal part of the bylaws once the moratorium is off. And the department is aware of it. The public is aware of it. We are following the Brown Act. So I don't see
Another thing is that
but I want to take it seriously.
he was complaining that it wasn't on the all year budget. It happens that the Luminaria was. So he was physically wrong with that idea.
Right, but we've been told repeatedly that when we generate our budget, it's not a final budget. It is simply,
No, but I'm
and
saying
it's outreach. This is
there's
considered
an
outreach.
allocation for it on the
Right.
yearly budget. So I'm just hoping to get some sort of thing today
Right.
that will show up on Wednesday so they can just quickly approve it. It's nothing. It's not.
You talk about Luminaria again. Thank you for shifting back to that. Thank you.
It's not
Yes, you're right.
controversial.
Got it. Okay, so with that, yes, I know.
Yeah.
With respect to Luminario, I think we're all in agreement. So the treasurer's report we'll just have to hear from Richard when he gets back. But I wanted to do a status report on some of the items to make sure that the wheels are spinning and that people are getting what they need. And we can move on now to item 7, which is nothing, just comment from other members. We've had a good conversation. I think we've got a couple of good programs, and I will close the remarks by saying thank you for coming in on a Saturday, and we adjourn.